Good afternoon. Welcome to NCIA's Industry Essentials Educational Webinar Series, our premier digital platform featuring a variety of programs to provide you timely, engaging, and essential education when and where you need it most. My name is Brian Gilbert, the Deputy Director of Events here at NCIA, and as always, I'm very excited to welcome you all to another edition of our NCIA Committee Insight Series today, being presented by our newly sat Retail Committee. If you're just joining us, please stay on the lookout for housekeeping and orientation instructions to be relayed via the chat window, so we're not taking up any more valuable time with routine info. But note, if you have any questions for our team on how to participate in this virtual event, please message myself or Brooke Gilbert at any time via a private message inside the Zoom platform. Before we kick things off, I would like to make special mention of our presenting sponsor of today's session, Paybotic, the premier payment solutions company that excels in tailoring solutions to the cannabis, CBD, and hemp industries. Head to their website after the session to learn more about their products and services. Now, let's get this show on the road. In this edition of our NCIA Committee Insight series entitled Retail Cannabis During a Pandemic, we're joined by a panel of retail cannabis experts to discuss some of the ways that the ever-evolving cannabis industry has changed during the COVID-19 pandemic, specifically in the retail space, as well as some of the best practices you can follow to ensure the safety of your staff and, most importantly, clientele. We have a lot of information to cover and a very important topic to explore, so let's not waste any more time. To kick things off, I'd like to welcome our moderator, Ryan Rappaport, to the virtual stage. Before we get started, why don't you tell the audience a little bit more about your own background and expertise before doing so for each of the panelists in turn. Thank you so much, Ryan. You can take it away from here. Oh, looks like you're muted, Ryan, by the way.
There you go. Got me. Good call, Brian. Hey, everyone. I'm Ryan Rappaport. I am the co-founder and managing partner of Digital Venture Partners. We are joining you today as retail committee members with the NCIA. A little bit about Digital Venture Partners. We are a media company focused on brand building and content development within the cannabis industry. And then today we're also joined by some really great panelists. Lorena Schofield, who is the Director of Operations for Lucy Sky Cannabis, is a leader in compliant, customer-focused facilities in Colorado. She's also been serving in the retail cannabis space for almost 8 years, and she truly loves all things retail, and I can tell you that from personal experience working with her. She's been responsible for helping build a brand from the ground up and creating memorable customer experiences through the personal interactions there in Colorado. She also has a really strong passion for people and loves to help others through her work in the cannabis industry. We also have Gary Strahle. Gary is a metric-validated Salesforce SI and SIV partner. He's a cannabis industry veteran who also is a surf enthusiast. And with all of his big business network, he's also trained and bonded with some of the leading professionals within the cannabis industry. And he's a competitive athlete with a ground-level approach seeking philanthropic solutions for those without surfboards. And then finally, Jason Kragholm from QualScore is a 15-year quality and customer service feedback industry veteran and is the founder of QualScore. They are the first fully systemized solution for cannabis businesses to measure and track quality and customer happiness. And through that QualScore platform, businesses can collect reliable data, measure quality, safety, and efficacy, and this really enables them to help make better decisions and build loyalty in their marketplaces. So moving into the content here. Today, we're going to be talking about a few different things. One of those is going to be focused on how retail cannabis has evolved since COVID-19 and what that's meant for businesses. Some of the retail best practices that we're seeing from winners out there during this time. And what might the future hold for retail cannabis? We know that as the pandemic continues on and lockdowns ensure, what are going to be some of the best practices and ways that your businesses can continue to win out there today? And we'll turn it over to Lorena. Lorena, if you could join us today.
Hi, yeah, thank you so much, Ryan, for that introduction. And thank you, Brian, and everyone at NCIA for having us here today. And thank you to all of our attendees. I'm really honored to be here. So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and get started discussing a few of the ways that the retail cannabis industry has evolved since COVID-19. Looking at some of the market trends, particularly sales. So according to a report from LeafLink, we definitely saw a spike in sales around March, mid-March, kind of when everything kind of went into lockdown. And then it did dip down a little bit, I guess, maybe because everybody was stocked up, kind of staying home. And then sometime around mid-April, it did grow pretty significantly and continue to do so, where it kind of leveled out towards the end of the year. But, LeafLink reported 112% growth from October year over year, which is pretty significant and something I'm definitely proud to be a part of. Regarding trends, and these do vary from state to state, but overall, Greenbits was reporting, the second quarter, we were seeing much higher cart sizes, much higher total items purchased, and that is most likely correlated to, folks getting stimulus checks and being in that stay at home order. So, everybody was just pretty much stocking up. Whereas in turn, in the third quarter, Greenbits was reporting higher discounts. Discounts were definitely higher on the retailer side, whereas transaction total and total cart items tended to be down. That could be in reference to, customers kind of sticking to a budget in these uncertain economic times. Unemployment rates are much higher than they've ever been. So, that definitely plays a huge factor in it. Something I thought that was kind of interesting, though, to notate that name brand packaged flower is seeing an increase overall, despite, the cost conscious customer. That was 20% of all sales in October was name brand packaged flower. And I know that's something that's relatively new to Colorado. And, my company alone has definitely seen a growth in the prepackaged flower, the branded prepackaged flower, because back in the day, it was just kind of, you got what you got. So it's really interesting to see that shift in the buying trends. Maybe that's can be correlated to kind of the craft beer industry. People are developing a more sophisticated taste for cannabis and really, really seeking that higher end product. So definitely something to consider. According to LeafLink, they were reporting in March that edibles and cartridges had increased while flower had decreased. And maybe that could be related to, customers kind of focusing on lung health and trying to stay away from the combustion products. However, since then, flower has significantly grown, which, flower's always been the top selling cannabis product. So it's not really too surprising there. But yeah, it's something that's definitely interesting. All right, next slide.
Hey Lorena, we had a question from the audience from Luke, and he asked if anyone could speak on how COVID has pushed home delivery to a higher priority in legislation. I know with everything happening in Colorado, you might have some insight on that.
Yeah, so in Colorado, we currently do not have delivery. That is definitely something my company and I personally am really, really pushing towards within our local jurisdictions. We're hoping to have delivery in Colorado by February at the latest. The legalization does go into effect January 1st. However, from my most recent update, Denver County is kind of waiting probably more like late February to get that going. But that is something that I am a firm believer in. And, it's very important for public health and safety, less face-to-face interactions in these uncertain and dangerous times, really. So it's hopefully going to be something that really takes off here in Colorado, similar to how it does in California. So, you know, it's kind of up in the air at this point, but I'm definitely excited and eagerly anticipating that transition within our community here in Colorado. So yeah, some more changes that we have seen with retail cannabis are operational changes. You know, the online orders, the delivery, and the curbside. Again, that's something that we haven't, delivery is not something we've started here in Colorado yet, but we are seeing a lot more online orders and curbside. According to reports from iHeartJane, which is an online ordering and delivery platform, they saw an increase from 25% of online orders in February and 75% were in store. And then from there, it more than doubled in April up to 52%, which is pretty significant. You know, people staying home again, kind of in lockdown. And then it kind of leveled out as customers were allowed to come into the store again, but it's definitely grown pretty significantly since the start of COVID. Regarding delivery and curbside, so Jane reported a 680% growth in delivery and curbside, which is just crazy to me. Between early March and mid-April, really when those stay-at-home orders were in full effect. Once that was kind of lifted a little bit and the regulations became a little more lax, it did decrease by 24%. But you know, it stayed steady for the remainder of the year, and that's not something I see changing anytime soon. Some of the in-store changes, you know, staff are experiencing lots of changes, customers are experiencing lots of changes. Everyone's required to wear a mask. You know, here in Colorado, we do, you know, deli style for our flower, and we can't do that anymore. It's just kind of, you know, you look, you see, the nose doesn't know because you can't smell anything anymore. And that's kind of some of the things we faced at the beginning. We were kind of having a lot of pushback from some of our customers, not wanting to wear the mask or not wanting to follow protocols. But, you know, really there's really no room for not following the procedures because it's a public safety risk. And, you know, that's really something you have to stress to your customers who are coming in every day, you know. And once we finally got everybody in line and everybody was, okay, this is how it's going to be, we don't really have any of those issues anymore. But, you know, change is hard for a lot of people, and it's not always a fun thing to do, but you know, we have to follow our regulations. As far as marketing, so we've definitely seen a shift, especially in my company. You know, we were doing a lot of print advertisements in local cannabis magazines and such, and really we're trying to, and many other companies are really trying to pivot those marketing efforts more towards digital marketing. And that can be very difficult with the strict regulations in place on marketing in the cannabis industry. You know, so finding very innovative ways to at least get your brand recognition out there is something that a lot of companies are doing, and really just staying focused on data to follow sales trends, find what your consumers are looking for, and to best build your business around. Regarding hiring, so Vanks put out a report saying that at the start of the pandemic, you know, a lot of companies were really trying to scale down their staffing because not everybody knew what was going to happen in this industry. You know, we were all just kind of hoping for the best, but expecting the worst. And, you know, when we were deemed essential, things really, really took off, which I thought that was such a powerful voice for the cannabis industry being deemed essential, and I'm sure all of you do as well. But yeah, so at the start of the pandemic, staffing definitely declined, but as the time went on, hiring increased pretty significantly. 68% increased their headcount in the second half of 2020, while 32% maintained their headcount, and that's according to Vanks. Particularly sales positions, marketing, and IT positions. So sales positions have and remain a top priority position, especially during these times. But IT and marketing definitely increased, and that kind of coincides with the new kind of focus on e-commerce, digital marketing, and online ordering. So with all of these changes and these uncertain times, it is more important than ever that we come up with some kind of way to have contactless payment, because we are dealing with so much cash. According to a report from Greenbits, the industry now affects over 250 million people. And they were saying that national retailers will accept over 1 billion $20 bills or its equivalency this year. That is a lot of cash and a lot of cross-contamination that could put your staff and your customer base at risk. So it is more important than ever that we find a solution for contactless payment. Greenbits was also reporting that they saw a 600 times growth in their retailers offering their debit transactions since March. So, there are retailers definitely taking the steps to do that, but, a lot of that stuff needs to happen on a federal level, and it's more important than ever that we push this forward as best we can. And then I'm going to pass it off to Gary, who has a wonderful video, and I'll let him kind of brief you on that real quick. So take it away, Gary.
Thank you all. I really appreciate all your kind words and all of your attendance today. I just wanted to start by introducing Golden State Greens, one of our premier clients, of whom is one of the best dispensaries in the world, selling 77% more than the average California dispensary, according to BDSA analytics. If there's one thing that we've learned over the years, it's how to adapt to change. And we've learned how to do it really well. And what you'll hopefully get out of this video is an illustration of who we are as Golden State Greens and really what has changed this year due to coronavirus. But it'll give you an idea of where we want to be again and what we are all about. So with further ado, please roll the video.
I love working with Golden State Greens Point Loma because they really do care about the community that they're in and surrounding areas. It's nice to be with like-minded people and be able to give back through an organization that cares.
What's up, you guys? It's Dave Key, and I'm here at Golden State Greens, and I'm basically just going to show you what it's like for us on an everyday pandemic day here at a dispensary in San Diego. So first of all, I got my cool, custom Golden State Greens mask. Obviously, we gotta have these on when we go inside, so let's go this right on. So we got our face covering signs and stuff to let everybody know, kind of standard. As soon as we go in, we'll see our purple tier rule. We got contactless check-in.
Put your money on it, addiction to go on and on and on and on. And I said I never feel it, when I'm smoking it's a meal. It's no weapon that you need it when I'm out, I don't conceal it. It's all we want it up with it.
And so what kind of stuff are you guys doing here? your customers safe from coronavirus?
We're constantly washing and sanitizing our hands. We do temperature checks on employees as soon as they arrive. We clean the surfaces. We do not let we only let a certain amount of people in the bud room at a certain amount of time. Yeah. And we're very proud that we have never had one case of coronavirus since March.
Not one.
Not one.
Excellent. Well, that sounds like you guys are doing the right thing. It sounds like everything is cool here. And I'm sure everybody will be excited to come by and just experience Golden State Greens.
Yes, heck yeah.
Nice.
Original got in the beginning, I'm getting the weed, let's take the distro. We rolling it up in Philly, and I'm getting the weed from Cali. Original got in the beginning, I'm getting the weed, let's take the distro. We rolling it up in Philly, and I'm getting the weed from Cali. Original got in the beginning, I'm getting the weed, let's take the distro. We rolling it up in Philly, and I'm getting the weed from Cali.
Thank you all for watching the video. I just wanted to conclude and reemphasize that we have not still had a single coronavirus case to date, and we're continuing to take extra measures to keep everyone safe. Was there any questions that I could answer for anybody?
Yeah, I would just like to kind of add, as far as like retail best practices go, you know, something that we have done for scheduling, because it can be very difficult, especially if you're a small business, you know, and you have limited staff. You know, if you're put in a situation where someone has potential exposure or they may turn up sick, you know, you need to be prepared for those situations, especially as cases are rising. So something that we've done to kind of help mitigate that, we did unfortunately have to shorten our hours a little bit, you know, but our doors are still open. So, you know, there are lots of businesses who are not that fortunate. So we did have to kind of scale back our hours to allow for a little bit of shift in our scheduling process. So something that we're doing that seems to be pretty effective, we're doing like block scheduling. So basically we have like team 1 and team 2, and everybody on each team solely works with those teams. And that way, if someone were to turn up sick, you know, you're not out your entire staff. You're out, you know, while everybody else gets tested and quarantines, you're out half that crew, you know, where the other crew can potentially help to kind of fill in the gaps there. You know, also if you have multiple locations, it is beneficial to kind of have a crew on deck that would be able to kind of be like the backup team that would be able to jump in and help. You know, you could also just do curbside during those situations, just to avoid having to close your doors completely, because as we all know, that could be pretty detrimental for business. If you just, you know, were out of all of your staff for 2 weeks. Like, I know my company could not afford that, and I'm sure many other companies would suffer significantly if you're completely out of your staff. You know, and just really trying to make sure your staff is following protocols. You have cleaning schedules in place. We have timers that go off every hour, that every surface gets wiped down. Staff is doing temperature checks when they come in. All staff are wearing gloves and masks, and we're kind of doing it, because we do still accept cash. We kind of have the 6 foot back from the counter. The customer places the cash on the counter, so there's no direct hand-to-hand interaction, really trying to minimize that as best as possible. And as I touched on before, sometimes customers just don't want to follow the protocol, but our job as an essential industry, we really, really need to make sure that we are trying to minimize the amount of COVID cases as much as possible. So it's very important as a retailer, as an operator, that you are holding people accountable. If they are disgruntled and they don't want to follow protocols, suggest curbside, suggest online ordering, but there's really no room for not following the protocols. It's just the times that we're in right now, and hopefully it won't be this way forever, but there's literally no room for mistakes to be made, because the consequences they far outweigh having a difficult conversation with a customer or with an employee. I think luckily the cannabis industry is an industry that is very used to being adaptable. We roll with the punches regularly. So, here in Colorado, we had, when everything first started, things were moving so quickly. Rules would be one thing one week, and then the next week they were something else. And then the next week they took everything back and changed it again. And that was just something that we had gotten used to, just rolling with the punches. So I think that definitely gives our industry an advantage, because we are used to always being adaptable. But just make sure that your company is following CDC guidelines, and really just doing everything you can to minimize exposure and keeping your staff and your clientele base safe and healthy.
And I think I'd like to just add on top of that, Lorena, you're really only gonna be as adaptable as your technology stack when it comes to handling all of these issues and different things. You better have a good technology stack in place to manage all of the data and project tasks, or whatever it be, schedules, hiring new employees. It all wears and tears at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lorena, this is Jason, and I was actually just wondering, just a quick question on this best practices. How do you recommend retailers handle a customer that comes in without a mask, or without proper attire? How do you handle it?
Yeah, so I mean, we pretty, we have signs posted everywhere. You have to wear your mask. We've really trained our customer base to expect that no matter what, when they walk in the door, if they're not wearing a mask, they're going to be asked to get a mask. But at the beginning, it was very difficult. People threw a fit about wearing a mask, and all you can really do is be, this is customer service. All you can do is be as polite as possible, but you ultimately have to put your foot down and just refer them to, hey, I completely understand, we don't like wearing the mask either, but unfortunately this is the regulation, and we're trying to ensure the safety of our staff and the safety of the rest of our customer base. So if you don't want to wear the mask, totally understandable. We just ask that you place orders online, and give us a call when you're here, and we'll come bring it straight out to your car. You don't even have to worry, and just kind of do it that way. But unfortunately, there is no wiggle room for not following regulation.
Great points there, Lorena. Great. I want to ask and see if anyone has any questions here. If you want, you can just plug those into the chat as we're going along. I'm sorry, on the Q&A section, and we'll make sure to address those as we move forward.
Okay, perfect. Ryan, I wasn't sure if I got ahead of anybody with this slide deck. So let me know if I'm ahead of anybody. And Jason, if this is your spot, feel free to dive right into it.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Brian. I will. And, you know, I just really think it's so great that everybody is here today and talking about these retail issues that are real in today's world with COVID here today. And what we can do is really focus in on delivering those experiences to customers and letting them know that we're doing everything that we can possibly do to provide them a safe environment going forward. And I just applaud your efforts, Lorena and Gary, because it's so important to deliver that customer experience to these customers at this specific time, because we have a demand for this product. It is absolutely there for the future, which is super exciting for our industry going forward. And we're really opening up legalization in different states. We're having more kind of curious customers coming to the door, really thinking that this is an amazing medicine that could possibly help them out, get off of certain opioids and problematic substances. And so when we're looking into the future is super bright for cannabis retail. And that is something that we really want to make sure that we understand, is that at this point in time, when we're really thinking about customer experiences, you know, and as a industry association, NCIA, what we're trying to do is help retailers just be prepared for the future, best practice tips, educational seminars like this. And I think probably the best thing that we could focus in on, the immediate thing that we can deliver at this current time, is the fact that we're doing everything and anything that we can possibly do to keep these retail environments safe. And we're really focused in on our customer safety. And so I really applaud everybody what they're doing. And I want to pass a question back to Lorena. Is there a possible scenario in the future that, you know, we could market back to these consumers and let them know exactly what we're doing to help potentially increase our sales? Are those active things happening right now in the retail space currently?
Are you referencing like cannabis marketing regulation?
Well, just the fact on what exactly we're doing here with Gary's presentation of showing the customer every single touch point, what we're exactly doing. Is there a recommendation on maybe something that retailers could do to market all this information back to consumers?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, cannabis marketing is definitely difficult, you know, but something that we've been really trying to focus on is branding. And, you know, like you were saying, it's crucial now at this point that more than ever, you know, that should be your main point as a retailer already, but, you know, really staying focused on the customer experience, making sure they feel safe when you're coming into your store. You know, maybe making little fun videos like the one Gary made and posting it on your social media, you know, just to really show your consumer, hey, we care, we're doing all that we can. And, you know, and they notice that. They notice that when they walk through the door, the protocols that you're putting in place to keep them safe. You know, these protocols are there to keep them safe as well as the staff. And you know, we've seen customers just so thankful for everything that we're doing, because they know that, you know, our staff is working on the front line and putting themselves at risk every day coming to work to provide a service for them. So, you know, just letting them know that, hey, we're here for you. We want to make sure you're safe and healthy, and we still want to be able to provide you with the cannabis that you need during these difficult times. And, you know, I think social media is a good outlet, especially right now, because, you know, ultimately we don't really have much other outlets to go through as far as like print and, doing newsletters and reaching out to your customer base just to reiterate kind of what you're doing and the things that kind of set you apart to make sure that they're staying safe. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just really think that as a I just want to also thank the NCIA for all their efforts, all of our committee member efforts. It's super pleasure to share the stage with everybody today, and we're trying to help the retailers really be more profitable and succeed in this environment that's tough. And so what you can really think of as a nugget of gold from this is utilize what you're doing every single day to keep your employees safe and also your customers safe. Use that in your marketing. And it's probably the most powerful thing, because as a customer and consumer, they love that stuff. They want to feel safe. And so it's super important, especially with these new Canna Curious consumers, is to really provide that marketing material showcasing that you're doing everything and anything you can to keep them safe, and that you're the choice to go to, and you'll have a really a profitable business going forward. And so, before I ask Gary a question about e-commerce and the advancements of that, what I also want to tell people is be excited for retail for the future. We have some great technology that all the industry participants are working towards to better understand your customers and provide those systems to you. And that's exciting for the future. Maybe what I could pass off is Gary, what do you think are the advancements with e-commerce, and where do you think that is headed?
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of discussion to be had around e-commerce. And just to kind of relate into some of these questions we're getting in the chat too, quickly to address Stefan, he asked if our general customer base was 80-20, 80% new, or 80% of the business from 20% of the customers, I believe is what he's asking. To put it into perspective, what we're seeing is what was once more or less like 70-30, which 70% was tourists, 30% were returning customers, locals, has more or less flip-flopped to 60-40. So now we're looking at 60% return customers, 40% new, which we could maybe attribute to tourism. But back to this question of e-commerce and why it's so important for everybody. There's a lot of platforms out there, some of which may be your competition. And ultimately, all of those that are not your own are your competition, because they happen to see your data and your relationships with your customers. So one of the best pieces of advice I can give retailers out there is to follow the leaders. Look at the top Fortune 500 companies and evaluate what they use to manage customer relationships. And essentially there you'll find platforms and technologies that will allow you to deliver an online ordering experience that you own, not any other competition. So in terms of seeking success with growth, e-commerce, customer relationships, that is my one biggest piece of advice.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. And then I just wanted to add, as more states are coming on board and, cannabis is becoming more of a mainstream and less of a taboo industry and product, we are going to be seeing a lot of that that kind of curious consumer that may not have been into the idea of consuming cannabis, you know. And I feel like having a solid online ordering platform, and as delivery develops and evolves, you know, having a solid foundation for that, so you can open up your market to those consumers, because a lot of those consumers don't want to come into your store, you know, they still kind of feel weird about it. So, you know, I think it's really important that we focus on the regulation changes, and as it does grow more throughout this industry, you know, it's really important that we stay focused on that and building a solid foundation. You know, these are some of the states that are anticipated to legalize adult use in 2021. It's like a $6 billion industry. So with these additional states, so, you know, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of regulations that are going to be changing. Safe banking, hopefully the MORE Act just passed the House, you know, progress is being made, but, you know, it's up to us as retailers and us as a whole industry that we really do our part to help drive this in a way that is beneficial to us, that we can really have a voice in informing these regulations, because we live it, we breathe it, we know what the stakes are and what we need to run a successful business. So, you know, just keep your eyes on the future. And, you know, I really do believe that the future of cannabis is bright, especially with, you know, a lot of typically red states that we wouldn't expect, you know, like Mississippi coming on, having new regulation and not thinking so much that cannabis is a negative thing. We're going to be seeing a lot more of that as time goes on. So, you know, just my little 2 cents on that.
No, and great point there, Lorena. And you know, I think the last part of you see that stay focused on customer experience, that's going to be so important moving forward. Some of our multi-state operator and local partners are trying to kind of step up that experience at whatever level they can. If people can't be coming into their stores, they're out there trying to get people on the when their deliveries or with their pickups, add that little extra flair, whether it's a note or a mask or hand sanitizer, just having that ready for them. And as we try to move forward in this pandemic here, I think that's going to be one of the biggest evolutions, right? Is how we're going to now interact within the society and still give that best experience to as possible to our customers.
Yeah, you know, that is amazing, Ryan, that you mentioned that. It's so important to really deliver that customer experience and learn from your customers, and really just focus in on that customer as much as you possibly can. And the companies that do that in the future are going to definitely win. So that's also the what I feel is happening, is more and more businesses are going, okay, we want to be profitable with our businesses. What are the best ways to do that? Is, well, listen to your customers. And right now, what they're saying to us is, we want to continue buying from you, but we want to make sure that everything is safe. And so we need to make sure we have those systems available to learn that, and then execute in marketing, and then drive profits for the business, because we're satisfying needs of the customers. And so that is definitely coming in the future. And I'm thrilled to be a part of that technology change, so that we can have a successful retail environment for long future to come. And so it's not as difficult as we think, because we have such an in-demand product. And so we just really want to cherish this opportunity and set a great standard of excellence and appreciation and care for our customers, our employees, ourselves in these difficult times right now in COVID. And, you know, if we can get through this, it's going to get brighter and brighter, and keep working hard. So Lorena, thank you so much for you know, being such a trooper, and Gary, every single day. I feel like you guys are like the superheroes with masks on, showing up every day, delivering medicine to the world like you're supposed to, and holding your employees accountable, but not not only your employees accountable to certain standards, but your customers. And if they don't want to abide by those regulations with certain mask protocols, then they have other alternatives. And it's so smart that they can do that. They can actually do a delivery or do a pickup like you suggested. And you were listening to your customer, but you were setting a standard of excellence that they appreciate. And so all I'm saying with the retail environment today, it's super bright. And one thing that's missing, I think, is that customer experience, focusing in on that customer like a laser, and really listening to them. And that's really what's going to be changing in the future. I'm working, like I said, with a lot of different technological partners, but if we could just unite together through these crazy COVID times, and like Gary was mentioning about how we used to get together, and have fun, and it's just different now, and we miss it. And so it's going to change, it's going to get better. And so if you can prepare yourself best for the future by focusing in on your customers, I think that's the future. Technology is going to be right there with us. And so thank you, Ryan. You're right.
Great. Yeah, no, thanks there too, Gary. And, just informally, as we had some people chiming in on chat, don't know if everyone got to see all this, but we see some people out there also using Leafly, Dutchie and iHeart Jane seem to be the big ones out there. Meadow as well as some of the regulars are fans of. Thanks, Veronica, out there. And, I think this is from what we've seen as a large national operating presence here, as people are starting to already realize, oh, this is something that we had to do before the pandemic and it just got ratcheted up. We'll kind of see the technology systems and the delivery systems all evolving, and really excited to see what that means moving forward here for the rest of the year in 2021. And I want to give everyone just a quick shout out. Lorena, Jason, Gary, thank you for joining us today. You guys' information that you provided was critical. And everyone, if you see here, our contact information is listed. You can see where our companies, our emails, and our social media can be found.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you all so much for presenting that information-packed session. As Ryan just mentioned, you can make use of all the contact information listed on this slide to follow up directly with any of our expert panelists. All of them would love to connect with you one-on-one and talk more about any retail needs that you all might have, or bounce any ideas off of them as well. Again, as always, make sure to fill out the event survey upon leaving the meeting room. That will grant you all first access to receive the PDF presentation files. And if you want to receive their contact information after I advance from this slide, feel free to ask them in the chat window. And I'm sure any of the panelists would be interested to put their email, website, or any other contact information that would be useful for follow-up purposes in the chat window over the next few minutes. All right, and as always, we're going to leave today's session, or we're going to leave you all from today's session with a quick preview of some upcoming programs and activities that we'd love for all of you all to participate underneath the NCIA umbrella. For all of you all that might have missed it, we held the live days of our first ever virtual conference, the Cannabis Business Cyber Summit, earlier last month. Don't let FOMO set in, as the entire event is now on demand for the next 24 hours. You've got 24 hours to dive in there and get all of that content. And participation is free for all current NCIA member businesses. Not ready to take the plunge? Well, you can secure a non-member pass for the low price of $49. Then while you're diving into all that 150 plus hours of educational content, you'll learn firsthand why you need to join the largest, most effective, and longest running trade association representing the cannabis industry today. Then finally, we want to leave you all with a quick preview of the next few industry essentials programs that are going to be taking place this month, which will be the year-end wrap-up for our online educational offerings. First off, we have another edition of our NCIA Committee Insight Series taking place next Monday, December 14th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. In this webinar presented by our Risk Management and Insurance Committee, participants will learn from expert loss control managers on how to assess your business risk and exposures and how to plan for the upcoming year. Topics will include how to define and assess risk, what might affect your business, and what to prepare for specifically. Next up later that week, we have another edition of our Service Solution series entitled Coming Out of the Dark Ages, the Future of Controlled Environment Agriculture in Sealed Greenhouse Cultivation. Now, you might be asking, what is controlled environment agriculture? What is sealed cultivation? And what does that control actually mean when we're talking about growing? Well, this webinar brought to you by the series Greenhouse Solutions team will explore all of those questions and answer why they matter for the professional cannabis cultivator. Whether you're a grower, builder, investor, someone who operates in the general cannabis space, or someone who is interested in learning more about the future of cannabis cultivation technologies, this webinar will highlight some of the technologies involved in modern greenhouse design, as well as series' unique approach to facilitating cultivation to market strategies for those looking to enter this world of cannabis growth. As always, our Service Solution series, which allows cannabis business owners the opportunity to learn more about products, services, and industry solutions directly from NCIA's network of established suppliers, providers, and thought leaders, is free and open to the public. You can register today at our website, then invite as many of your industry colleagues or coworkers who might be interested in attending as well. And with that, thank you all so much for participating in another NCIA Industry Essential Educational Webinar. A huge thank you to our panelists, audience members, and member businesses, which make our work possible. Special thanks once again to Paybotic for sponsoring today's session, as well as all of the newly sat members of NCIA's Retail Committee for developing and presenting the program. As noted previously, please complete the attendee survey after leaving the meeting room to gain immediate access to our presentation file. And do note that all NCIA members receive exclusive 30-day access to a formatted video recording first posted in our online members-only community platform, NCIA Connect. 30 days past publication date, you'll see this session posted on our webinar archive to the public. Now, I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you all again next time for another Industry Essentials educational webinar. We'll leave you all with this end of event credit sequence highlighting the 15+ member businesses that make up our retail committee, as well as the nearly 24 member businesses which participated in this afternoon's session. As always, we'll showcase some audio stylings by the resident musician at our Colorado-based events, KJ Liss, and his Illinois-based musical side project, Indigo Sun. Enjoy, and we'll see you next week.